Year 10 and 11, welcome to your analysis of the characters in Frankenstein in preparation for your AQA English Literature exam. Remember, pause this video as and when you need in order to take notes. Okay, we'll start with obviously the main character, Victor Frankenstein. Okay, Victor Frankenstein's life story is at the heart of the novel. As a young Swiss boy, he grows up in Geneva reading the works of the ancient and outdated alchemists. A background that doesn't serve him well when he attends university at Ingolstadt. When he gets to university, he learns about modern science. Remember, he witnesses the lightning striking and destroying the tree. Within a few years, he masters all that the professors teach him, and he becomes fascinated with the secret of life. He discovers the secret of life and brings a hideous monster to life. The monster proceeds to kill Victor's youngest brother William, his best friend Henry Clerval, and eventually Victor's wife Elizabeth. He also indirectly causes the deaths of 2 other people, including Victor's father. Victor is torn by remorse, shame, and guilt. However, he refuses to admit to anyone the horror of what he has created, even when the ramifications of his creation are spiralling out of control. Over the course of the novel, Victor changes from an innocent youth fascinated by the prospects of science into a disillusioned, guilt-ridden man determined to destroy the fruits of his arrogant endeavour. Whether as a result of his desire to attain the godlike power of creating life, or his avoidance of public and society in which science is usually conducted, Victor is doomed by a lack of humanness. From the very beginning of the novel, he cuts himself off from the world and eventually commits himself entirely to an obsession with revenging the monster. At the end of the novel, having chased his creation, Victor relates his story to Robert Walton, and then he dies. With its multiple narrators and multiple perspectives, the novel leaves the reader with contrasting interpretations of Victor, the mad scientist, transgressing all boundaries without concern, or brave adventurer into unknown scientific lands, not to be held responsible for the consequences of his explorations. If we move on now to the monster. The monster is Victor Frankenstein's creation, assembled from old body parts and strange chemicals. He enters life at 8 feet tall and enormously strong, but with the mind of a newborn. He is abandoned by his creator Victor and confused. He tries to interact with society, only to be shunned. Looking in the mirror, he realises his physical grotesqueness, an aspect of his persona that blinds society to his initial gentle and kind nature. Seeking revenge on his creator, he kills Victor's younger brother William. After Victor destroys his work on the female monster, which is meant to ease the monster's solitude, the monster murders Victor's best friend and then his wife. While Victor feels hatred for his creation, the monster shows that he is not purely evil. The monster's eloquent narration of events reveals his remarkable sensitivity and benevolence. He assists a group of peasants and saves a girl from drowning. But because of his outward appearance, he is rewarded only with beatings and disgust. He becomes torn between revenge and compassion. The monster inevitably ends up lonely and tormented. Even the death of his creator, Victor, offers only relief. Joy because Victor has caused him so much suffering, but sadness because Victor is the only person with whom he has had any sort of relationship. Moving on to Robert Walton. Walton's letters to his sister form a frame around the main narrative, Victor Frankenstein's tragic story. Walton captains a North Pole-bound ship that gets trapped between sheets of ice. While waiting for the ice to thaw, he and his crew pick up Victor, who was obviously weak by then after his long chase of the monster. Victor recovers and tells Walton the story of his life, and then eventually dies. Walton laments the death of a man with whom he felt a strong, meaningful friendship beginning to form. Walton's role parallels that of Victor in many ways. Like Victor, Walton is an explorer chasing after that country of external light and unpossessed knowledge. Victor's influence on him is paradoxical. One moment he exhorts Walton's almost mutinous men to stay the path courageously, regardless of the danger they will face. Then next, he serves as an abject example of the dangers of heedless scientific ambition. In his ultimate decision to terminate his treacherous pursuit, Walton serves as a foil, someone whose traits or actions contrast with and thereby highlight those of another character. To Victor, either not obsessive enough to risk almost certain death or not courageous enough to allow his passion to drive him. Elizabeth. If you watch my other video on Frankenstein themes and symbols, you will see that I've done a section on the role of passive women in the novel, because obviously all the women that Mary Shelley presents are weak in some way. When I mean weak, I mean they don't serve an important role, really. Victor's mother dies. Justine is executed when she is innocent. Elizabeth seems to linger in the novel, waiting for Victor to return to her, and then when he does, she is killed. Okay, but just a little bit more information on Elizabeth. She is an orphan child taken in by the Frankenstein family. She later becomes Victor's wife, and obviously we know the monster kills her. She is the one who keeps the family together after Victor's mother Caroline dies. She survives the scarlet fever. She writes to Victor while he is away and tells him what is going on with the family. She provides the source of information for Victor when he is away at university. So her letters become an important part of the plot because she is the one telling Victor what's happening. Yeah. She also represents, to a certain degree, Mary Shelley herself. Elizabeth aids the poor. You know, we know that she helps Justine. She respects all classes of people. She comes to the assistance of Justine when Justine is accused of murder and believes that Justine is innocent. Elizabeth is a happy child, and she provides a positive outlook on life throughout the book, which can sometimes have quite a lot of negative perspectives, especially when we're looking at the monster who is so isolated. So basically what Elizabeth sums up really is a form of innocence, and her innocence is taken away because obviously she is murdered merely for revenge on Victor. Justine. Justine is the housekeeper for the Frankenstein family. We don't learn much about her character except that she embodies the best in suffering for a just cause. Justine represents graceful suffering in the face of injustice, much like a martyr. She is well treated by the Frankenstein family and is regarded not as household help, but with the esteem and affection accorded a family member. Justine endures the rejection by her own family through no fault of her own, and in that way she parallels the monster, because remember, through no fault of his own, Victor rejects the monster. So there's a clear parallel there, like a very slight parallel between Justine and the monster. Although she endures the rejection by her own family, it is the Frankenstein family, specifically Elizabeth, who rescue her. Through the character of Justine, Mary Shelley addresses the issue of equal treatment for domestic help and the accommodation of those in need of aid. Because of all that she suffers, Justine is a sympathetic character. We, as a reader, feel sympathy towards her. And here is a quick character map for you if you just take a few seconds to look over each character. At the top you've got Robert Walton, who writes to his sister Margaret Saville. Then obviously we've got Victor Frankenstein, who meets Robert Walton. Henry Clerval is Victor's best friend. Henry is murdered by the monster. Victor marries Elizabeth, who is murdered by the monster. Victor's brother is William, who is murdered by the monster. Obviously, Victor creates the monster. The monster is shunned by society and is desperate for a relationship. He's desperate for a companion, but obviously he is unsuccessful in that pursuit. When he murders William, he places the locket on Justine, so she is accused of the murder and executed. He seeks friendship with the de Lacy family, the blind father, Felix, the fiancée, Safi, and the daughter, Agatha. He approaches the blind man, de Lacy, to talk to him, and de Lacy thinks he speaks eloquently and he seems quite kind, but obviously when the rest of the family see him, because he's so grotesque, Felix pulls him away from the father and tries to beat him.